The big dogs here today. Yeah. Okay, you guys ready to go? Okay, 4 days down. I think that there's a saying that, it's not about the bricks, it's all about the mortar. And I think we're in the process of developing that mortar. Certainly building that glue to kind of for the team. I think football forces you to make decisions with others in mind. You can't just focus on yourself or even just a few people, in your circle. I think you got to back up and see the big picture. And that's one of the things I respect about this team. I think they are loyal. They're out to prove that they're trustworthy, that they're respectful, that they want to be a great teammate. And I think they're trying to make decisions in the best interest of the team. And that's where you start. I think this time of year is extremely important. We're obviously working on the football, trying to teach our concepts, teach situations, fundamentals to not only a group of veteran players. Our team's really, I would say, in three groups. You got a group of veteran players that have played a lot of football. Then you got this middle group that played some last year and gained some experience and are there's an opportunity to really make a big jump. And then you got this group that just showed up here in January. So I thought the staff did a great job in phase 2 in particular, and I think we continue to take steps forward. So in general, I'm never quite satisfied, but I think in general the attitude is there, the effort is there. We've got to continue to get the precision where we want it. Questions?
You've talked about it before with there's not much difference between analysts and assistant coaches in this day and age, but it looks like Ryan O'Hara has dropped the analyst title and he's a full-fledged assistant coach. Just what has he meant to you and your program and kind of waiting it out as an analyst and now getting to be the assistant coach with the quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think Ryan is, first of all, this will be year 8 for Ryan with me. I think he spent the first year on defense at Louisiana. We like to do that with young guys at times, put them on the other side of the ball, and then we moved him over. He's acquired more responsibility in every cycle. He's proved to be able to handle the workload. And certainly last year, the rule that was made freed him up. And I thought he did great work. He's completely cut loose on the grass. And he's a great teacher. He takes tremendous pride in being well prepared for the players when they show up to the building. And he's done a great job with those guys. And I think those players have played well.
How does that help you? Because you're a quarterbacks guy and you work closely with the quarterbacks. Now, I know last year you had that role too, kind of being free-floating and whatnot. Mm-hmm. How does that help you on a day-to-day basis with the quarterbacks?
Well, it buys back some time. I think ultimately for me, there's certain times of the day where maybe I was in the middle of it before and now I'm freed up to do other things. I think that's one of the benefits. But yeah, just in general, I think giving him that title and that authority, I think that's a healthy thing for the players as well, right? So I think in general it just buys back some time for me personally.
You addressed a lot of topics last week, but Jaden Baugh, don't think you talked about. What kind of strides did he make during the offseason, and what are next steps for him, you think, to kind of really make that year 2 jump?
Yeah, I thought Jaden worked extremely hard. I think he was one of the more impressive players in terms of still had the edge, still hungry. Obviously tasted it a little bit last year and hungry for more. I do think leaner, really got to work on that body, and I think, just year 2, I think you attack the training, the meetings, the walkthroughs, the practice differently because now you know what it's like out there, so I understand what the calendar looks like. I understand what the games are like and what it's going to take for me to be an elite player and perform on a consistent basis week in, week out. So I think he's extremely bright. He's mature. So I think he's handled that well. And then the key is we remain humble and we continue to work with the same enthusiasm. And so far, so good there.
Where do you want him to ideally play at? I mean, he came in pretty big.
Yeah.
Where would you like to see him ideally?
Well, I think that number, I don't know if he's doing media or not. You could probably ask him, but it's pretty exact. I mean, I think based on the decks of the end body, the frame score, Coach Sankel is very specific about where those guys need to be. And look, they weigh in every week, and there's a quota there that he's got to hit, and we let the staff downstairs handle that, and he's never had a weight discipline issue.
No, I didn't mean that. I was thinking,
He's in the 235 range, I think plus or minus 2 from whatever that target weight is every week. That's where he's got to be.
he carries it well.
Mm-hmm.
On the quarterbacks, any status change looming for DJ, or is it still something that you want to take slowly with his participation level?
Yeah, I think it's we've got a really detailed plan. I think we laid that out. I think the key, and I kind of took some notes there in practice there, while he's going through this process, I think it's important that we challenge him. We still have to have a daily plan to keep him engaged. I think right now he's communicating with the other quarterbacks. He's calling in the plays in some periods, which is healthy. See it from a different perspective. And then I do think that he's getting back in his rhythm, I think physically. So, but in general, I think it provides a great opportunity for the other players, I think Aiden, Harrison, and Trammell, all three are getting significant reps and doing a really good job. You can see the incremental improvement with all three guys. They're all obviously still young players. Aiden being really, if you think about it, Aiden missed all of spring last year, so he's still relatively young.
What have you seen specifically from Harrison, just how he's taken onto y'all's system and all the reps he's getting?
Well, he's been around football. I think that's the big thing is he's been exposed to a lot. It's not too big for him. He's had some success. He's got his tail chewed out a few times. I just think he's a mature veteran player. He's played in a couple different systems, so I think that is always an advantage. I think he's translating. Just not too big for him. I think he's comfortable. I think he's used to the speed of the game. He's used to the competitive part of the game, and he's played for some really good coaches.
What kind of jump do you want to see Hayden Hansen make this year in his third year as a starter? And he talked to us about some of the work he's put in as a route runner, and then some work with the receivers.
Yeah, no, I think Hayden is. I'm really proud of Hayden. In terms of I think he's really worked. He's one of the best workers that we have. He's. I don't want to use the word obsessed, but he's extremely driven. He's highly motivated. He's made himself into a heck of a football player. So it takes a lot of pride in all parts of his game. He's a big physical player. I think he's 6'8", 270 pounds, 65 pounds. And then I think he knows that he needs to improve in certain areas to create more value long-term for him as a player, and I think he's attacked those areas. But I still remember Hayden Hansen, the high school quarterback from Weatherford, Texas, So I'm just really proud of the guy. He's grown as a person and leader, so we've seen him grow in all areas since I can remember the initial arrival to who he is today. He's definitely worked extremely hard.
Coach, with the absence of safety, how have the younger guys kind of worked with maybe more reps than expected? And can you speak to any individuals that may have stood out during that time?
Well, it's one of the areas that shows up. You're out there. There's definitely, I looked up out there today, I think with the second group on defense, and every player was a true freshman, So I do think that we've got quite a few players that are modified or not able to participate, in particular in the secondary. I mean, you imagine getting Gates, Denson, Thornton, Dede back, those are all essentially starters to some degree, not to mention a few others in the front seven, right? So I do think that presents a challenge, not only for those individual players, but the secondary as a whole, because the combinations of players out there, Jordan's out there, Devin's out there, but then you look up and there's Josiah and Greg Smith, and they have minimal experience, right? So secondary is much like the offensive line. It's continuity is critical. I think working with other players is critical. So I think we're going through some of those growing pains. But I do think in general, when we're doing it right, it's fun to watch, and those rookie players are getting valuable reps for sure.
I saw a rep of J. Michael. It was pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. What's been the you've had a Midas touch in the portal with these receivers. What's been the secret sauce there?
Yeah, I mean, I think just over the years you've watched a lot of players. I think evaluate a ton of players in every cycle. We've learned from great people. I think we've got a way that we do it. I think our personnel department does a phenomenal job of kind of filtering through, weeding it down to a group that we can get our eyes on, and then we, I just think it takes reps. I think we've been able to do that consistently for a while. So J-Mike is, I think has been a very productive player. I think much like Jim, he had an initial surge in production. Then the production went away. Then there's traits there that kind of check a lot of boxes. Then you meet the kid, you meet the family. There's a lot. They're very impressive people, very mature, very smart kid. And you just see things. Hey, look, we think we could do a lot with that guy and get that production back to where it was when he was a young player. So we had some familiarity with him because he grew up across the street from Graham Mertz, right? So that was the connection there, and I think ultimately that paid off. So J-Mike, he's doing well. He's handled the work, the work capacity is there. I think he's motivated. Obviously, he's got 1 year here to kind of prove himself and increase his value, and I think he knows he can help our team.
Do you think he might go to the portal at quarterback with a little bit of the uncertainty maybe? Yeah. Do you think the spring portal might be you might want to get a quarterback out of there?
I think that I think we always come out of spring with a little bit better feel for our team, in terms of, I think, Bird, Cheryl, he's always asking me, what positions do you think we need to be working on? I said, hey, man, you need to plan as if we need a player at every position, because we never know what's going to happen. So, I think we'll evaluate our team. We'll see where we're at. I really been pleased with the 3 guys that are taking reps right now. I think we've got 2 good young players, and then we've got a guy who's played a lot of ball. So, and then obviously DJ being back. So I think in general, we'll know a lot more once we get done with spring practice.
So many players and coaches have raved about Jaden Woods, especially what he showed in the offseason. How's that translated to the first week of camp? I know that room is stacked, but what have you seen from him?
Well, I think first of all, he's an impressive young man. I think that was ultimately, this time last year when I met him for the first time, and I sat there and had an in-depth conversation with his grandmother, and he's laser focused. I mean, you're talking about highly motivated, driven, detail-oriented. His grandma, I don't think she would mind me saying she's old school, and then just the wiring is right there, man, not to mention the talent. I think he's 6'3", he's probably 235 pounds. Played stack backer a little bit as a senior, but really fundamentally advanced. I think he's been coached well, played in a good program. dad was a former player at Kansas State. You know, there's a lot there. His grandfather very involved. Just a blue-collar family, and a guy who he has the DNA to play early, I would say, you know, in terms of he came in here a little bit more advanced.
Billy, just talk about, you know, obviously Trey Wilson's still in the black jersey, but just his recovery and also, you know, when he does suit up, kind of how he can help out, you know, besides him and besides Jay Mike, a pretty young receiving core this season.
Yeah, I think once every practice, I see that 3 in that black jersey, you know, in routes on air, we get a chance to see him do some things. And, yeah, we all know 3 is one of the elite skill players in the entire country, you know, and obviously, you know, when he's healthy, he's as good as there is, you know. So I think we've been through a very detailed plan in terms of a thorough process to have the surgery with the best hip doctor in the country. Very thorough plan that's laid out for his return to play. And, you know, he's on schedule, and he looks like $1 million. When he does go out there, he's as impressive of a skill player as we have. So it's going to be huge for the Gators to get him back. You know, this guy's he's a one-play touchdown player, and, you know, when he's out there, then it makes us a lot harder to defend. You got to kind of pick your poison a little bit. So it'd be a big deal to get him healthy and get him back.
And just in general, just what, you know, from, you know, the freshmen, from Nashawn, from Dallas, from Vernell, what have you seen from them, and especially the speed that they kind of all provide and can help the receiving core?
Well, I think, first of all, you know, I think they're all good kids. I think I respect the makeup. You know, I think in general, all good teammates. I think there's a humility there. There's a selflessness there. I think they can handle the workload. You know, they show up. They're blue collar. They're durable. They've been able to handle the volume of work that comes with playing receiver. I thought they attacked the conditioning portion in phase 2. I was impressed with that. And then here we go. We start teaching football. And there's no doubt they've got skill, but they're young. You know, I think there's still some things to learn. But, yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a bright future there for that whole group. You know, and I do think that in that room you think about getting Trey back and then all those young players that are a year older, Aiden, TJ, Tank, you know, so you get KJ back, K-Jack back, who was banged up last year. So that room's got a chance to be a good room, but we're a long way from, you know, the opener. We got a lot of work to do, and yeah, it's a good group.
How much more could we see Eugene in the slot this year, and what kind of damage could he do there?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see him about. I mean, I think formationally we can get him in about every position, you know. So, you know, I think he's smart enough to handle it. You know, you could change his position mid-practice, and he's got the football intelligence, good concept learner, can run the full route tree inside and outside. You know, we've had guys like him in the past. Steve Smith's the guy that I would say he reminds me of. You know, I think he's got that play strength. And I think he's, you know, you get him off the ball, he's quick enough, you know, to win at the line of scrimmage. So, in general, he's not a slot or an outside guy. He's a receiver. You know, we can line up him wherever we want to put him.
What do you think about what DJ's doing with his foundation?
Um,
Just age 19 to have kind of that vision, maturity.
Yeah, yeah, just incredible amount of respect for it. You know, I think that I've told you guys many times, you know, what impressed me about DJ is I knew him before he was, you know, what he's become today, you know, and I think that his ability to navigate the attention, the praise, the hype, to stay grounded, to keep that humility and that big picture perspective. You know, I think that's ultimately, he's a reflection of his parents, the values that he was taught growing up. And I think he's got a maturity to be able to back up and see the big picture and kind of live life that way. You know, I think it's one of the reasons why he's a great competitor, because he can navigate that. You know, it's not too big for him. So, got a sincere care for people, you know. And I think that he is mature enough to know that's what life's about. And I think he's using his platform in the way that was intended. And I know his family's very proud of that. His mom and dad are very unique, you know, in that regard. So it doesn't surprise me, and I would tell you that I think it's just the beginning. I think this guy will continue to be that type of leader, that type of example. So we're extremely proud of him and the approach he's taken.
George Gums called Jalen Wiggins the preacher, because he's about to bless somebody. Just what are you seeing from him through 1 week of camp? And kind of same thing about Jaden Woods, just a freshman that can maybe come in and make an impact.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jalen is he's extremely bright. You know, he came in here with probably, I don't know how many college credits the guy's got, but he's on his way to a degree already. Great parents. He's big. He's long. You know, I think his big deal is, you know, his strengths are his intelligence. He's got to be an effort player. He's got a lot to learn. So, you know, I think it's important that we understand big picture, that we got to help these young players navigate these expectations that we try to put on them, right? No matter, you know, what we see out there in that 12 minutes of individual you get to see. They're still young men. There's still a lot to learn. You know, there's an entire playbook to learn. There's a set of fundamentals to learn, not to mention they're navigating being in college for the first time. So a lot on these guys' plate. Jalen fits into that category, just like all these other rookies that we've talked about. So, you know, they're right in the middle of that first semester. So, but the good thing is we don't have a attitude or effort issue. This they're rock solid, and the group as a whole, I think, is doing a good job. And I think it helps when you have culture that's established and you got really good veteran players that are kind of taking them under their wing and showing them the way.
Building off of that culture, you've surrounded your team with analysts and student coaches who are alums, T. Staber, Quincy Wilson, David Reese is now helping with the edge room. Just how can those guys who've had success at this program really how can your guys feed off of their energy and their experiences? Yeah,
I think it's one of our goals is, and when we have positions, if there is a former player that's capable and they fit and the timing's right, certainly those guys they care a little bit more. You know, I think it's important to them. They've been where the players have been. I think there's some knowledge there that can be beneficial. I think about Mike Peterson. I think about Brandon Spikes, Stephen Ali. You know, I think we've had a number of them that come through here. And it's certainly good to get David Reese back, a former captain, a guy that was a part of the program in the past. So, and great reputation when he was around here in that regard. So, hopefully we can do that more in the future.
Rob mentioned the other night that he thinks this is the deepest offensive line group that you guys have had. He called you a closeted offensive line coach for assistance with it. I mean, what are your interpretations of it beyond, you know, the storyline being the four guys coming back who are starting?
Yeah, no, I'm very pleased with, you know, I'm pleased with the group. You know, I think that group as a whole, I think within that room, the relationships in that room, you know, we keep using this word culture, but I would just say that room as a whole, the energy in that room, the relationships, the pride that they take and play in that position, I think we're establishing something there. Because, you know, I really believe if you're going to have a championship football team, the game starts up front. You know, you can have the best skilled players in the world, you know, but if you're not capable of playing a brand of football on the line of scrimmage, you know, I think that you're not going to be able to position the team for success, right? So, you know, Rob and John both have done a good job, and I think that we've evaluated well height, length, smart, tough, and a lot of those guys have developed nicely. You know, maybe not the most highly recruited, but I think we look up and those guys are playing pretty good for us. So I think the coaches have done a good job, and then I think the players have worked extremely hard. You know, you think about, I can remember when we first showed up here, Jake, Austin, and then the addition of Nijay, Damian. You know, we look up now, here comes Rod Kearney, here comes Bryce Lovett. You know, here comes Fletcher Westfall, Caden Jones. You know, I think in general, Cam Waits has made some strides. You know, I think so. And then those young ones are, you know, O-linemen are like, you got to put them in the oven and put it on 350. You know, and it takes a little time, but I think we got the right ingredients in the oven. So I like that group. Okay, you got it.